The Sacramento Kings' three-game win streak comes to an end at the hands of the Denver Nuggets, 116. Without Malik Monk in this one, they'll be without him for probably the rest of the season. Still without Keegan Murray, who's day-to-day. Still without Jake LaRavia. And so it was always going to be a pretty tough one to win. Going up against a Nuggets team that just fired Michael Malone, which is insane, firing a coach just a few games before the playoffs. Also fired their GM in Calvin Booth. They completely cleaned house and they come out and they respond, get the win, getting the classic fired coach buff, the new coach buff. We'll see how long it lasts for them, but just a wild decision, both them and the Grizzlies, making these coaches changes so late in the season. They just feel like moves where you could have done it in the off season. I don't understand the point of firing Michael Malone right now when you could have just done it in the offseason. But yeah, wild for a guy that had been there that long and who had won a championship there. But here they are, and they get their first win. We had Jerry Reynolds on the call of this game, which was fun. And I thought it was a solid effort for the Kings. Not a bad effort, but I think you saw where this team missed Malik Monk at times as a ball handler. And then you definitely saw where this team missed Keegan Murray, missed Jake LaRavia as both guys that would have matched up against Jokic and just provided a lot defensively out there, but also Keegan Murray as a three-point shooter. Because the main thing that jumps out to me from this game is Zach LaVine's stat line, right? He had 27 points, he had 11 assists, he had 4 turnovers, but those 11 assists, like those are the things that's the thing that really jumps out to you. And with Malik Monk out, he's going to be asked to do a lot of the ball handling, do more creation. And it's not a good thing. Like for him in this game to get 11 assists, that's great for him individually. He made the right plays in situations where he needed to get off the ball. But I think when you look at it from just the perspective of how the Kings want to play offensively, it's not a good thing when Zach LaVine is the creator. When Zach LaVine is the guy who's getting double teamed and then forced to get off the ball. And that's really what was happening, because how the Nuggets were defending any screens that involved Domantas Sabonis screening for somebody else, whether that was Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, or anybody else, is they were having Jokic play at the level of the screen. They were putting two guys onto the ball handler and making the Kings swing the ball from there. And so when Zach LaVine would come around these screens, they were throwing two guys at him and he was forced to make plays from there and not be the scorer that we need him to be. Also, DeMar DeRozan just had a very bad game offensively. I mean, that was a big part of this loss for the Kings. We needed DeMar DeRozan to be the point guard, the creator, and he did not do a good job of that. It forced Zach LaVine into that role. And the Kings don't have a guy like Keegan Murray who you're going to swing the ball to, who's comfortable taking three-point shots that are contested or deeper three-point shots. And so when the Kings would then swing the ball, guys weren't making plays. And so I think that's just where you really missed a guy like Malik Monk. And early on, we saw the Nuggets playing with Jokic at the level of the screen. And honestly, he wasn't even really at the level. It seemed like the plan was for him to be at the level, but honestly, it seemed like he was being a little lazy and he wasn't really getting up into the ball handler's face. And so I felt like the Kings could have done a better job early on of getting downhill, because a little later on, they started to get downhill against Jokic, and that's when things really started to open up offensively for the Kings. When they would come around these screens, when Jokic isn't all the way up at the level of the screen, you attack him, get downhill, and that's when good things are happening. The Kings were kind of stuck to the perimeter early on, not getting much separation around these screens, just moving the ball around the perimeter and not really finding anything. The ball gets swung to, a Trey Lyles, who then isn't going to really make a play with the ball. He did hit a corner three, and Trey Lyles had a great game, but he's just not that type of player that's going to really make a play with the ball when the defense is in rotation. And then defensively, for the Nuggets, it was Christian Braun and Aaron Gordon that really were killing us. We sagged off Christian Braun, and he was knocking down his shots. He went 3 for 5 from 3. He went 9 for 12 from the field for 25 points. And I think the thing that annoyed me a little bit about the way they were defending him is this happened last time he played the Nuggets where Christian Braun shot well, and he's been shooting well, and he's been having these amazing offensive performances lately. And so I think it's one thing where, Jokic gets the ball down low in the post, he has a mismatch, you have to go send numbers at him. And then Jokic swings the ball and you have to get sent into rotation. So in that scenario, I understand you have to give Christian Braun some space to shoot the ball. That makes sense. I think the problem for the Kings is they were just giving him space when it wasn't necessary. When he just has the ball in the perimeter and Lyles is just sagging too far off. But again, that's also where you see the deficiencies for this team's defense when you don't have Keegan Murray, when you don't have Jake LaRavia. You have a guy like Trey Lyles who has to guard a smaller, quicker, but still very strong player in Christian Braun, so he feels the need to sag off. And so the Nuggets were just able to really exploit the Kings' defense because the Kings were not putting out versatile defensive players. DeMar DeRozan was guarding Aaron Gordon, and so anytime Aaron Gordon got isolated against DeMar, he was scoring, and that happened a bit. Aaron Gordon had a great game cutting and getting down low against DeMar. And our initial matchup was Trey Lyles on Nikola Jokic, which I expected, but the Kings were pretty much just switching everything against Jokic. And so we would end up with, whether it was Sabonis or a guard, somebody getting switched onto Jokic, and then we would send numbers at him. And he was playmaking from there, and the Nuggets did a great job of cutting. And a lot of times, Jokic would get it down low in the post. We'd send the double. Aaron Gordon would come cutting, and the help defender would be there to stop Aaron Gordon. But then the problem was then here comes Christian Braun on another cut from a different part of the court, and Aaron Gordon finds Christian Braun who's cutting, and now we can't defend the second cut. And so the Kings, especially starting lineup, but really all the lineups, just didn't have enough defensive players who were big enough or athletic enough or quick enough to be able to stop these, dynamic, fast, strong, big cutting players from the Nuggets alongside Jokic. And so when I'm thinking about guys like Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun really being a problem for the Kings, I'm looking forward to the Kings playing matchup versus the Mavericks. And I'm looking at a guy like Najee Marshall. I'm looking at a guy like PJ Washington. Luckily, they don't have a Nikola Jokic, right? So it's going to be a lot easier to defend. But Najee Marshall, that's a guy who I'm really worried about because he just has so much strength, just like in Aaron Gordon. He's been playing well. He's been scoring. And so if the Kings don't have a Keegan Murray or a Jake LaRavia, or even if they do, it can still be a problem. These bigger athletic guys who can get inside using their bodies and their quickness and score. And so again, the Mavericks do not have a Nikola Jokic, so it's going to be easier to defend in that play-in game. But it's just something to think about that we really need to do a better job of keeping these guys out of the paint. Like that's where the Nuggets were killing us. Paint points. And a lot of that was coming in transition. The Nuggets absolutely won the turnover battle. They only turned the ball over 7 times. Actually, the Kings only turned it over 8. So that definitely evened out as the game went on. Early on, though, the Kings turned the ball over more. The Nuggets on the game scored 21 fast break points, 52 points in the paint. The Kings on the other side, not bad, 16 fast break points, 46 points in the paint. But this is just where the Nuggets thrive. And Christian Braun was just having himself a game. The Kings were not getting set defensively, and Christian Braun was killing us. On the offensive end, the Kings started to figure out the way that Denver was defending a little bit, where they were having Jokic defend at the level. They started to get downhill. On one play, they had Domas roll down into the paint while Jokic was still up top, allowed him to get positioned down low, swung the ball around, got it to Sabonis down low in the post. And by the time we got Domas the ball, Jokic had recovered, but he has so much room in the paint, and he's able to get a nice hook shot to go. So that was one way the Kings were able to capitalize off it, but that was not how they consistently got offense. They weren't able to consistently get Sabonis down low in the post scoring. Really what started to work was when DeMar finally started to get downhill against Jokic. And really this is what we needed the whole game, but he didn't do it enough. He did it for a spurt in the first quarter where he was able to He was being defended by Aaron Gordon, comes around the screen, Jokic is on him, Gordon's trailing, and he's just able to beat Jokic. He had another play where he found Domas slipping down inside for a dunk. So because Jokic wasn't blitzing hard, right? He was just kind of sitting back a little bit. The Kings figured out you could attack him, make him defend you in open space, and exploit that. But on the other side, you have Jokic. He threw 2 straight alley-oops to Aaron Gordon, and then the Kings turned it over, a bad turnover, and Christian Braun was able to get a transition layup. I did think Trey Lyles had a great game. He was working out there, and that's something you can always rely on him for, always hustling, playing physical, but he also has some skill to him. He had a play where he was in the mid-post, and he found LaVine on a backdoor cut for a dunk. And so as the quarter went on, the Kings did a better job of attacking the paint, a better job of getting inside. When the bench came in, the bench was Devin Carter, Doug McDermott, DeMar DeRozan, Trey Lyles, and Jonas Valanciunas. And so I liked how Devin Carter came out and he was in attack mode. Valanciunas got a mismatch in the post. Nuggets send a double. Devin Carter gets the ball in the wing with the defense in rotation, and he just, he fakes a pass but sees it's not there. And then just immediately it gets downhill and attacks and draws a foul. So they started to figure out the offensive side of the ball as the quarter went on. Defensively, the fast break was still a problem. Getting bullied on the interior was still a problem. And we decided to go with Jonas Valanciunas guarding Russell Westbrook, which is what we did last game against the Nuggets. It didn't work then. And I'm not going to say it didn't work this time because we just didn't see it a lot. But immediately Westbrook just clears out. He says, everyone clear out, goes straight at Valanciunas and just walks into the mid-range and goes glass for a mid-ranger. In the second quarter, we had a lineup of Devin Carter, Doug McDermott, Zach LaVine, Isaac Jones, and Domantas Sabonis. I liked the rotations in this game. I liked the lineups that we put out there. I feel like they made sense. I don't think the lineups last game made as much sense. Last game against the Pistons, Malik Monk goes out, so they had to rework things on the fly. I feel like you could see now that we know Malik's out, we know Keegan's out, we know Larabia's out, it gave the coaching staff time to figure out the rotations and figure out who fit together. And so really, I think that meant how to best maximize Devin Carter, Isaac Jones, and Doug McDermott. Where do those guys fit? Against the Pistons, you had Isaac Jones in there with Jonas Valanciunas and Devin Carter as well, and that just didn't maximize those guys. Isaac Jones couldn't find any space. Devin Carter couldn't find any space. Valanciunas couldn't find any space. And so instead, we have Sabonis out there when Isaac Jones is out there. Sabonis isn't a guy that just sits down low in the paint like Valanciunas really wants to. Sabonis wants the ball and he's going to be moving all around the court. Valanciunas, he can get the ball and get it up top and hand it off, but then he just wants to roll straight to the rim. Sabonis, much more mobile and the offense has much more flow to it, so Isaac Jones can kind of find his spots, and then you have the shooters of McDermott and LaVine out there. So Devin Carter it's not as much of a problem that he's not the best shooter. And Doug McDermott came in and gave great minutes. He hit 3 threes in that second quarter, and pairing him with Sabonis is also just good because with that offensive flow that Sabonis provides, it's going to mean better looks for Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott, he doesn't do much else other than shoot, right? I mean, that's just the type of player he is. I don't think he was bad at anything else, but he's not someone who's going to make his presence felt on a game in other ways other than shooting, so you have to maximize that shooting, and I think playing him with Sabonis is the best way to do that. So right away, the Kings go on a 9-0 run. They did have a horrible transition moment after McDermott hit the first 3 that they left Strawther wide open in the corner for 3, but luckily he missed. Devin Carter punishes the Nuggets sagging off of him, hits a 3. Devin Carter had a really nice game. McDermott hits another 3. It was a 9-0 run to take a 1-point lead, force a Nuggets timeout. I liked how Devin Carter was just being aggressive offensively, looking for his offense. He missed some around the rim. He had a floater that was just in and out. You can definitely see the talent there in Devin Carter, and he's going to be huge with Malik Monk missing this time. We got to see if he can really provide positive minutes in the rotation in these last 2 games, going into a play-in game where it's win or go home in the play-in. So if you throw a guy out there and he just makes mistake after mistake after mistake, and even if it's a short amount of time, like that could lose you a game. And so the Kings have to figure out, okay, who's gonna contribute here with the injuries we have right now. And I think Devin Carter, just with his intensity defensively, sometimes can get him in a bit of trouble. He had 2 early fouls, maybe a little bit weak fouls. He's just always trying to get up into guys. But when he picks up those fouls in quick succession, it lets the other team get into the bonus early on. And so it's walking a fine line, right? You want a guy out there being aggressive, pressing full court, being disruptive, because he can come up with those steals and he can come up with big momentum plays. But you don't want to give the other team free trips to the free throw line. So it's about walking that fine line. I liked what Isaac Jones did. He had a nice offensive rebound and put back, and that just came from him cutting off the ball. And I think that had a lot to do with just how the offense felt like it had more flow with Sabonis, how he felt that freedom to cut more instead of just sitting in the corner. He also did have a play where he caught the ball in the corner, didn't shoot it, attacked off the dribble, and then got blocked by DeAndre Jordan. But Isaac had some other good moments. He blocked someone in transition, I can't remember, then had another stop at the rim against Westbrook. So he had some good defensive stops. He also had a moment where he kind of got muscled out of the way too easily and allowed an easy layup. So the good with the bad for him. But after that quick spurt from the Kings, the good moments to start that second quarter, the Nuggets answered back. MPJ was hot. He went 4 for 8 from 3, had 21 points. And the Nuggets, they just answered back. Every time the Kings had a run or anything like that, the Nuggets would answer back so quickly in transition. So much of what they got was in transition. And the Kings had some unnecessary turnovers in the second quarter. And the game just got really fast. Both ways, it was kind of chaotic. There were attempted dunks. There were missed dunks. There were alley-oops. There were blocks. There was physicality. There was speed. It got very fast, a little bit chaotic. And the Kings didn't get blown away in that stretch by any means, but I do think the Nuggets had the advantage during that chaotic stretch. They're just a good transition team. And so then the starters came back in. Immediately, DeMar got to his midi, which we just needed him to get going. I was loving Trey Lyles' cutting. All game, his cutting was good. And his passing to cutters was also very good. He was almost matching Aaron Gordon with his cutting. Not really, but kind of. Doug Christie had another successful challenge. He's been very good with his challenges. DeMar ripped Aaron Gordon, and he did it cleanly. LaVine had a nice feed down low to Trey Lyles as he looked off the defense. So LaVine did show off his passing. And again, good for him. He made the right plays. It's more an overall team thing that we need to be setting him up and not the other way around. But the Nuggets, they started to get up into DeMar DeRozan. And that's why LaVine had to be the ball handler, because DeMar was just really having trouble doing it. DeMar only had 1 turnover, but he had a lot of moments where he was just getting the ball knocked away. It was putting the Kings out onto the perimeter. It was disrupting the Kings' offensive flow. DeMar has been very good distributing the ball. His assist to turnover ratio has been very good. He's been good running the point guard for this team effectively, but he didn't do that this game. The Nuggets just put the pressure on him, and they disrupted him well. Keon was knocking down some threes, but that fast break offense, the cutting from Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun continued. DeMar did have an and one, but MPJ hit a 3 to end the quarter after the Kings doubled Jokic. So the Kings were down 8 at halftime. And to start the second half, the Kings pretty much just struggled with the exact same things they struggled with in the first half. The first play was Jokic getting the ball in the middle of the floor and finding Christian Braun cutting for a layup. DeMar continued to struggle offensively. He wasn't knocking down his shots, and then defensively, obviously was struggling. I feel like that kind of goes without saying. Christian Braun hit another 3 early in the third. And then really it was Trey Lyles. He started making plays to stop the Nuggets' run and stop things from getting too out of control. Sabonis found Lyles on a back cut, and Lyles then found Keon open for 3. Then Lyles had a nice drive to the rim and a layup, and then he hit a transition 3. I thought the Kings were getting some good contests on Michael Porter Jr.'s shots. but he was just knocking them down. But he did have a wedgie. But I thought like Zach LaVine, Keon Ellis, Trey Lyles, they had some good contests on MPJ, and it just sometimes it didn't matter. Jalen Pickett really started to knock down some threes. I heard somewhere, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure I saw that one of the disagreements in the Nuggets organization that led to the firings and stuff was about Jalen Pickett and him not playing enough, I think is what it was. And so here he is starting, playing 31 minutes, going 5 for 7 from 3, scoring 18 points. The Kings had some turnovers. Keon Ellis, he couldn't pick out the passes in transition. He had a couple of opportunities, one to, I want to say it was either DeMar or Lyles, cutting down the middle of the floor, wide open, couldn't find him. Another transition opportunity, Domantas Sabonis seals down low, and Keon can't get the pass past his own man. And then what Denver started doing defensively is they were pretty much doing the same thing they did in the first half, except in their screen coverage, but they were just doing it more aggressively. Jokic was up at the level, he was blitzing harder, and so the Kings tried to kind of pull them out to half court, start their actions further towards half court to pull the Nuggets defense up and create space for guys down low. But even when they would swing the ball, they just didn't have the guys to make the play, right? When the ball would get swung to Keon Ellis, he was knocking down his threes, but if he wasn't open, he wasn't going to be the guy to drive and make a play. He did like one time in the fourth quarter where he attacked a closeout and hit a floater. But other than that, like him, Trey Lyles, even DeMar, when he was the guy catching off the ball, like they were not making the plays necessary when we would pull two guys out. And really it took like Sabonis hitting a late clock midi to bail us out of an offensive possession. I did like one moment where Zach LaVine, he comes around the screen and he was just patient. He stayed on the ball and he just forced the Nuggets to do something, right? Because they're not going to keep two on the ball forever. So Jokic recovers. And so I liked that. It was something we hadn't seen, LaVine being patient on the ball. But then he drove into traffic and he kicked it out to the perimeter, but the spacing just wasn't good on the perimeter. So the cohesion offensively just wasn't there. And so again, I feel like that's just where, you're missing the point guard to really facilitate and try to pick apart how the Nuggets were defending. And so the Nuggets were able to go on a run. Jalen Pickett hitting those transition threes. Devin Carter came in for Keon Ellis. And the Kings answered with a little bit of a run the rest of the quarter. They got down, I think, 16, or it was a little bit after when they went down 16. LaVine hit a tough fadeaway. He started to get involved. I love the way Domas got a stop on Jokic, immediately pushed the ball the other way, got it to LaVine, went into a quick pick and roll. LaVine made a quick decision, getting it to Domas, who finished inside. DeMar started to get to the free throw line, but the Kings just weren't getting enough stops. So they went down 16 after a Peyton, Watson, and 1. And then it became the LaVine show. And LaVine kept us in the game. LaVine got it within 10 by the end of the fourth quarter. And he started to just do it in one-on-one scenarios, right? Forget this whole screen thing. Forget him getting double teamed and making the right play. Like, go score the ball. So he just went one-on-one, attacking one-on-one to get to the rim, step back threes, tough contested threes, driving and drawing fouls. And so instead of bringing, say, Sabonis or whoever into the action and screening for him, it's just like let him go one-on-one, and he started scoring, which was big. Got it down to 10 by the end of the third quarter. And the start of the fourth quarter is always key, because especially when you're down against the Nuggets, Jokic sitting out, and you have to be able to at least get it close, get it within a possession. But the Kings, they didn't play horrible in those minutes, but they weren't able to win those minutes. They had some nice plays. DeMar started to get to the line. He started to get to the middle of the floor and get to his mid-ranger. Keon had a play where he blocked someone from behind in the middle of the court, but then he missed the transition three. He shot well from three, but he just started missing in the fourth quarter. That would have been such a big transition three, and then Westbrook pushes the other way immediately for an and one. So Keon missed a couple of open looks, and the Kings didn't defend in transition the other way. DeAndre Jordan started to get some offensive rebounds. The Kings were getting offensive rebounds as well, right? Sabonis and Jordan were kind of trading some offensive rebounds. Lyles was getting in there. Devin Carter got in there for an offensive rebound. And Carter had some nice plays. He got a block on Westbrook and stayed with the play and got the stop. And then he got the offensive rebound, found DeMar for a floater. But it was just a little bit too much trading baskets. The key shots didn't go down for the Kings. They just needed to hit a couple of those key three-pointers. They didn't get them to go down. Allowed some offensive rebounds, so they weren't able to win those non-Jokic minutes. But when Jokic did come back in, the Kings went on a run, and Zach LaVine had a big part in that. Found Lyles cutting for a dunk. Of course, Lyles is cutting. We got that Zach LaVine Trey Lyles connection. I kind of like that. Keon had a play where he's matched up on Jokic, knocks the ball away. Trey Lyles goes diving on the floor for it and just can't come up with it. But they said he had possession, and so they reset the shot clock, which was annoying. But Trey Lyles was really working out there. LaVine hit a pull-up three. Then Domas got a steal on Jokic. LaVine pushed inside in transition, found Keon for a corner three, and Keon knocked that one down. That was LaVine's 10th assist. That cut the lead to 4. But then it really down the stretch, it was just the Nuggets hit some big shots. Aaron Gordon came down right after that Keon 3 and answered back with a massive 3 of his own. LaVine comes back down, hits a step back 3 to cut it back to 4 at 4 minutes to go, and the Nuggets called timeout. But from that point on, after that Nuggets timeout, I don't know if the Nuggets missed. That's kind of how it goes, and we've seen that before this season, where the Kings have a good shot in a game, and then the Nuggets down the stretch, just like their offense is automatic, The Kings played great defense for 24 seconds out of that timeout, and Michael Porter Jr. just knocks down a contested 3 at the buzzer. DeMar started to, he got things going in the fourth quarter. He hit a midi. Keon had that play that I talked about where he attacked a closeout and scored with a floater. Keon also forced an offensive rebound and then just couldn't knock down the 3 on that possession. But it was just about getting those stops. Jokic just created too much. The Nuggets knocked down their key 3-pointers. And so when you put yourself into a hole going into the Jokic minutes in the fourth quarter, even if the Nuggets, aren't what they used to be, even if they're without Jamal Murray, Jokic is still Jokic, and so that still applies where you're not going to win the game if you go into those Jokic minutes, especially if you're down like 10 or 11 like the Kings were. And they put up a good effort, but it just wasn't enough. And so the Kings lose, but the Mavericks also lost. And that's the only thing that matters right now. The Kings' magic number for the 9 seed is 1. So a home playing game, the magic number is 1. The Mavericks I think they play the Raptors and the Grizzlies to end out the season. And the Kings play the Clippers and the Suns. And so we just need the Kings to win 1 game or the Mavericks to lose a game, right? 4 games, one of the results has to go our way for us to get the 9 seed. So it's not like this was the biggest stakes game. Really, we need to get Keegan back. That's the main thing. He's out with his back issue. It'd also be great to have LaRavia back. But we needed DeMar to have a good game, and he just didn't. He played 40 minutes. He went 8 for 26 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3. 22 points, only 4 assists. He's been cooking recently, and so he just finally had an off game. And I think the pressure that the Nuggets applied to him bothered him. Zach LaVine, great game, 27 points, 11 assists on 20 shots. I mean, he does seem like he's getting more comfortable. He's been playing a ton of minutes. He played 44 this game with Malik Monk out. I mean, that's just what we're asking him to do. So hopefully we can get this 9 seed wrapped up next game so that maybe we don't have to play him 40 plus minutes, and so we can get some Terrence Davis minutes. He didn't play in this game, but I would like to see Terrence Davis play. I hope we didn't sign him for him to get 0 minutes. Like we at least need to get him in some garbage time, right? I want to see him play. Keon had a great game, 6 for 11 from 3, had 20 points. Him and Lyles scored because that's really what the Nuggets forced us to do, right? They forced the ball into the hands of Keon and Lyles, and they did produce. 20 points for Keon, 17 points for Lyles. Lyles also had 9 rebounds, 4 assists. And then Sabonis had 13 points, 12 rebounds, only 2 assists. And I just feel like we really did not find Sabonis a lot within the interior. When we did, good things happened, but when the Nuggets were blitzing the ball handler and the ball was getting swung, it really was not getting to Sabonis inside very much. And so his impact was a bit limited. Off the bench, you have Devin Carter playing 18 minutes, thought he had some great defensive plays, knocked down a three, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, had some other good attacks that just didn't end up in buckets. Doug McDermott came in, just knocked down 3 of 5 from 3. So him finally hitting shots that matter. Let's go. Finally knocking down threes when it matters. And of course it's against the Nuggets. Apparently he likes shooting against the Nuggets. I don't know. With McDermott, it was kind of just a matter of time if he got the opportunity. Like at some point he was going to knock down threes again in minutes that mattered. It's just when he comes in, is he hitting his threes or is he not? And he hasn't gotten that many opportunities in the actual rotation, but he does here because of the injuries, and he made the most of it. Valanciunas played 9 minutes, 2 points, 2 rebounds, and Isaac Jones played 6 minutes and had 2 points, 2 rebounds, and a steal. And I thought Isaac Jones had a productive 6 minutes. But the Kings got swept in 4 games by the Nuggets. Now they go to play the Clippers, who they've lost all 3 games to. So we'll see if it's back-to-back sweeps here. It would be great if Keegan was available for this one, because I don't see, even when the Kings have been healthy playing the Clippers, we cannot defend them. They have a healthy Kawhi Leonard. Who knows? Maybe they'll sit guys because it's, the second to last game of the season. No, I don't think they will. They're in a big race, aren't they? Yeah, no, never mind. They're definitely not sitting guys. I forgot for a second how crazy, 3 through 8 is in the Western Conference. That is insane. An insane race there. The Kings have had a lot of trouble with guarding James Harden. And so I would love to see Devin Carter get a shot, although I'm sure that he would foul him. But the Kings cannot let James Harden get going early. Like, that is the number one thing for this game. Be all over James Harden. Try to deny him the ball. Try to force, Chris Dunn to beat you. Try to force Derrick Jones Jr. to beat you. Zubats is coming off a game where he put up a triple-double. Zubats has been extremely good this season. He had 20 points, 10 assists, 11 rebounds in their last game. The Clippers have won their last 6 games. And I feel like the Clippers are kind of a team that people aren't talking about that much, but that could be extremely dangerous in the playoffs. Like, I'm terrified of this team. I do not have high hopes for the Kings winning this game. But if they do win this game, I think it's going to have to be in transition. I think you have to beat this Clippers team in fast break points, get points in the paint easily in transition. The Kings have to play fast. They have to play fast. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back on Friday to recap the second to last game of the regular season against the Clippers. So I will see you guys then. Peace.